Hello guys, welcome to the video. My name is Jamie Johnson and I have chosen 5 textural impressions from the last 20 RV sessions that I've done, and I'm going to share them with you today. The texture portion of the RV sessions are supposed to be around descriptions concerning the surface of the target. So you'll probably see a lot of descriptions around flows and what it feels like on the surface of that target, or roundabouts, and that's on purpose. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and let's kick it off. Alright, so first off the mark, the first textural one that I'm going to show you is JetPack. So this one came up in touch, and we're going to the textural sides to this one. Okay, texture 1. I've got the picture coming up, and there's really only one picture to have a look at. So let's kick into it. Texture 1. I've got a picture of my arms, and it looks like I've got descriptions on one of my arms that I'm feeling. Cool skin, layered, on top of structure, smoothish. So a lot of this cool skin, I can gather that, you know, you're moving with the JetPack in the air, it's going to be cold. Layered, as far as the clothing that you're wearing, has to be layered for that cold protection and staying warm. On top of structure, I'm not entirely sure what that could be. It could be the fact that one of the controllers is actually on the arms and the surface is on top of that structural form. But that's really just a guess for me, and it's smoothish, so that could be that structure of the hand controller. And I've got some AOLs here. I've got AOL, I'm feeling wet. AOL looks like, I don't know what that is, run, and AOL of water. So definitely feeling the wetness on something. It'll be interesting to see where that went. I can only think that the guy is sweating, or he's going through over the source of water. You know, there's a lot of yeah, it really is sort of very vague, but let's carry on. Texture 2. Legs feel stiff, functional or structural. So feels like weightless, flying and floating. The AOL I've got this is skydiving. So it feels like my legs don't have any weight to them. They feel like, you know, when you jump over a bump in the car and you sort of feel your body sort of raising and then falling. That's the feeling I was feeling in this weightless, flying, floating sort of sensation. Texture 3, goosebumps. So it is pretty cold. I usually get goosebumps in cold situations. Loose energy, not solid, softish. So that, to me, points to like a paraphysical. So paraphysical in the TTS RV process is something that is not solid, but exhibits energy anyway, has a form. So loose energy, not solid, softish. I can only think that that's the propulsion from the JetPack coming through on that impression. The drawing that I've got here is of my body and my head, and I've drawn something on my shoulders at the back. The description is long structure, across back, structural support. So it felt like it needed to be supported. It looks like the backpack's being felt. What have we got here? Cold hand, cold, hard, solid, thin. So to me, that's something within the back JetPack itself that he can probably feel. It could be the JetPack itself. Pokey out. So I can only think it's the JetPack with the exhaust ports coming out so it can fly, or it could be the handlebars which he controls the JetPack as well. So that is texture 3. Let me just see if there's another one. Texture 4. Alright, so texture 4, we have got my arms in my usual RV session pose with my pen, both arms. And what I've got here is cold flows over forearms, cold breezes felt. I've drawn the arrows in which I felt the cold breezes. It looks like he's going forward, and therefore the wind is coming back and blowing back onto his body. I can feel that flow of wind going over the arms in this impression. I feel it a lot with a lot of impressions, but this one was exceptionally obvious. The other description I have of the flow is that it's directed, it's not random. So there's obviously some structure, some form that's involved, which allows the air to happen in one direction. So really that's just the propulsion forward of that person using the jetpack. And so, yeah, that is texture 4 and that is jetpack. So you get the flows, you got movement of the person in texture 4. Texture 3, we've got the structure of the jetpack, which can be felt, and the jetpack's energy that can be felt coming out of it, I believe. We've got indicators of cold and wet. So we've got wet, water, goosebumps. It's pretty cold. So at least texture 2, we've got legs feel stiff, structural. I'm not sure what they could be. It could be the legs of the jetpack, but we've just spent a lot of time saying that his legs and all that. So we may not be feeling his legs. It may actually be a structure of some kind, but it feels like weightless flying, floating. That's what it feels like. Legs feel stiff. So maybe it's just the upper part of the legs, and this lower part is where it's flying and floating. Texture 1, cool skin layered up, so it's really what the person's wearing on his skin. So they're all following the same sort of context, which is the surface of the target. And that is jetpack. Let's go to the next one. Next up, we've got 061220. This is the burning oil well, and this is RV log 124. So let's get through to the texture section. So bringing up the photos, we've got 3 photos, and I've got an additional photo of the oil well itself. So let's bring them up, and let's go with this session. Texture 1, it feels exposed. Skin feels open, exposed, warm, sunny. That's a name. Don't name stuff. That's the rule. Structural warmth felt. So obviously the structure is expressing warmth. Yeah, it's on fire. Feels built, man-made, flat, and it's building. So that's the structure of the oil well. Cool breeze. Must be a cool breeze today. So yeah, it's just the oil well doing its thing. Maybe that's where the fire comes through, where the warmth is felt. Don't name things. It assumes that it was from the sun, the warmth was from the sun, which we can clearly see it's not. So texture 2, cool atmosphere felt, rough building materials and rock. So that's obviously of the site, very structured site. Smoothish feels cold, sun feels warm on skin. All right, so another mistake. Don't name things in your session because we're assuming it's now the sun. We already know it's not. Left side, right cool, a little cold, wettish. So we're getting we're getting elements of the cold and wetness that's out on site. So yeah, let's continue on. Texture 3. I've drawn a picture of my body standing up. And what I've got here is sticking out structure on the left arm. So there's one picture with the oil well, and it's got this sort of like a building halfway up. And I believe that sticking out bit is what I felt in the picture. What we see in the picture here is that we've got cool around my legs. I've got cool flows around feet. And I can only think that it's the water from the firefighting. It's just all over the place, and it's just wet. The actions here is spasms in hand, There could be motions and activities with people using their hands to do things. In this situation, it's understandable. Left side, tall structural of body. So oil well, feel very long and high. Great, describing the oil well. What's sort of close to the site target is this here. So I've drawn this aura around the body and I can feel it's warm. Now, as long as I can feel the difference of the heat, it doesn't matter if it's super hot or just lukewarm. As long as I can tell the difference between what's normal and what isn't, you can at least find that distinction and create the description. And that is burning oil well. Guys, thanks for joining me on this one. Alright, next one up, we've got 080123. This is Hot Spring, and it's RV log 129. Let's kick into it. So there's really only one picture here, and it's the lady enjoying the hot spring. Let's kick into the texture side. What we've got is the texture side, because we're looking at surface of whatever, of the target. We've got cool skin, surface exposed to cool air. Air is still light, air is still. Light coolness, feel a flow of energy, some tingliness, movement minor. So if we're looking at the lady, she's going to have cool skin, it's going to be nice and warm in that thing. The air is probably still, there don't look like too much breezes going on there. If anything, it's probably due to the temperature of things. Let's go with texture 2. So on texture 2, I've got a drawing of my arm, and I've got some compression around this arm for some reason. So let's have a look at the descriptions. Feels like a tight armband on left arm. What we've got here, tingly, very pins and needles. Let's worry about that later. So let's have a look at her left arm. She's got a watch on her arm, on her wrist. So to me, that's what we're feeling, is the watch on her wrist on my left arm. Now we've got a faint version of the right arm, and I've drawn a little, not a compression, just a feeling. And I believe it is of her arm that's half dipped in the water. Usually you can tell the difference between when your arm is in the water and your arm is out of it. That's the distinction I think I felt there. Just the difference. And it's enough to feel it in the session. Feels like legs are heavy, mass, and blocky. And I've got an AOL of hot air balloon. Yeah, I can only think that might be the cave. She's relaxed, heavy, mass, blocky. Yeah, it's the cave. It could be a chair she could be sitting on. I'm not too sure about that one. But let's carry on. Texture 3. Feels like wave or flow gently going over body. Now I've got a picture of my arms and my body in a seating position, and I've got these arrows slightly going over it. So going with the flow, wave, direction, gradual, like a gentle breeze. So that to me feels like the hot spring is doing its job, really, is the energy, you're calming yourself down, you're relaxing and that sort of thing. So that's how I take that. If you're in a hot spring, you kind of feel like waves of relaxation or energy changes within you. So I don't know if it's that, but that's what I'm going to associate it with or map it to. All right, so that is hot spring. Thanks, guys. All right, what do we have here? We have 080130. That is the tallest elevator in Europe, and it is RV log 130. So let's kick into the texture side of this document. All right, we have texture 1. So let's bring up the pictures for this one. We have got, well, we've got a couple of pictures. I might put in a video of it during winter. It is beautiful, and it may explain some of my impressions as well, but let's just continue on with it. So looking at the pictures, we've got a lift that starts from within a mountain. We've got a cave-like structure, and reading the description, people walk into this sort of cave internal to the mountain. They enter the elevator and they go up to the top, and then they come out and voila, you see the village or something like that. Tourist. Anyway, let's kick into it. Texture 1. We have wet-like, cool, cold spots, cold arms. So I've got a picture of my arms and they're cold on the outside. This tells me that the object or the subject or the target is actually outside and the air is exposed to it, to the outside of this target. What have we got? Cold dripping, feeling down legs, melting cold spot. Feel pressure on top of forearms. Something sitting on top of arms, heavy, weighted. Now, I have an image of a triangle, and that was the flash. So if we have a look at the picture of the tallest elevator, it does have a triangle on top, not as prominent as the actual picture, but it's a shape, and I would take that as a shape indicator of the object. Cold dripping, feeling down the legs. Now, this is high in the sky. I can only assume that maybe it rains, it snows. Actually, it's beautiful when it snows. I'll show that up as well. Something sitting on top of arms, heavily weighted. So, yep, it's just the structure. Let's continue on. Texture 2. Feels tight around my body. So I've drawn my arms and I've drawn these spiral patterns within them, spring-like coils. The description I've assigned to those drawings is tight fitting around arms and legs, tight skin. Pressure felt around arms and legs. So my guess for this one is that if we look at the picture, it's long and thin. It looks super tight. In fact, if I were to bring in that image, any small thin structures feel tight in my sessions, simply because we have to try and feel those parts. And I can only assume that the structures, because it's small, tight and thin, and the bridge that's going across, I'm feeling those structures around my body. If I had my arm, just an example, if I have my arm in my hand and I feel something that's smaller than that, I'm going to feel it as a constricted body part. But anyway, that's how I'm taking this, because I can feel the tightness. It looks really advancedly constructed, that it's got a lot of support, and yeah, it just, if anything, tight fitting just means small and complicated and thin and tall. But anyway, those are only speculation. I haven't really got any real proof, but at least it provides me with some insight into the site, target site. So texture 3, we have got my arm, my left arm with my pen, and my right arm on this side. We have got some description, so cold top surface of arm felt. So it's obviously a structure and it's very cold. The second arm, I can feel it's moving. Cool water feel over forearm, flows. Now I've crossed out water because it's really naming it, right? But what I want to give a name to energy that, to a form that just moves in a liquid state, is a flow. So most of my waters will be called flows, hands and fingers as well. So the arrows of the flow are going over the top of the forearm up here and down here. Right arm moving, tingling large movements. I can only think that that is the elevator moving within that structure, but I don't know. That's also a speculative guess. And there's no texture for. So yeah, this one I still like, only because it's such a beautiful place. Watch the video that I put up, it's really beautiful. But the obvious things are the contractions, the movements and the temperatures, movement, and this little triangle of the roof of the elevator, and the fact that it's outside. And those are my main points of this texture side as well. So yeah, this is the tallest elevator in Europe. All right, last one. We have 080319. This is High Society Dining. Well, I just call it High Society. This is RVlog 138. It's a recent one. Let's kick into the texture. So texture 1. Let's bring up the pictures. Boom, 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 boom. We've got a few pictures here. We've got dinner table in the sky. We've got people sitting around, very high, very cold. Yeah, and some views on the platform itself with everybody strapped in. So with that note, let's go feel what the surface of this thing is like, or the descriptors. First one, texture 1. We have got my body in my session pose, arms on the table, desk, and I've got the squiggly line. Let's have a look. Warm body, cool. Cold cloud just beyond skin. So it's cold all around, not on the skin, but away from the skin. So here I'm trying to describe it a bit more. Cold element felt on skin. So this is my skin, and you know, it's warm, it's radiating, it's a little bit of heat. Now the cold that I felt, it's like you open a fridge door or a freezer door on your refrigerator and you can see that mist coming out, and that's what it felt like. It felt like this mist was coming in from over here, like away from the skin, but you can feel the coldness brush up against your skin. So that to me is the weather being felt up in that cold dining space. Anyway, all right, so we've got texture 2 here. We've got a personal response. So goosebumps up right arm. Goosebumps is usually my physical tell for cold situations. So personal response is part of my RV process, and I mark it down when I feel it. But what we've got here is I've drawn my hand, but with emphasis on my forefinger and my thumb. So let's have a look at the descriptions. Like squeezing action with finger and thumb, and I've got the actions of my finger and thumb closing. Action felt and squeezing. Structure felt and forearm, right. So this actual description, or this piece section, I believe is this guy here. So this guy is sitting and he's holding his glass of champagne with holding the stem of the glass, and I believe my whatever impression is of him squeezing that glass. Simple. The guy next to him looks like he's pretty, yeah, he looks pretty frightened. Hands out in front. He doesn't look very comfortable at all. Texture 3, here we go. We've got a picture of my arm, and I've got something happening on the outside of it. We've also got a picture of my leg, and something's happening there too. So let's read the descriptions. Flow felt against outside of right arm. So it looks like I'm feeling the fact that we're in outside, and I can feel air, I can feel exposure, I can feel the cool air running against my skin. For my legs, here we go, outside of right arm, that's not that one, that's this one. Outside of leg and foot, cold flows felt. Flows fell hitting. Tell hitting. Flows felt. Yeah, can't even read my own writing. Anyway, cold flows felt. So, look, it's an extension of the arm situation where if I feel cold on the outside, I must be looking at something that's situated in an outside situation, and the legs just sort of emphasize that. But if you look at the pictures of the legs, they're going to feel drafts coming up the trousers from underneath, from the world below. There's going to be a lot of cold being felt. Is there a texture 4? No, there isn't. So yeah, so as far as the session goes for texture, it did its job. It's feeling the texture of things inside the target space. And yeah, thank you for joining me, guys. I will be doing, what's up next? Temperature next. So I'll catch you on that one. See you later.